In this video, I'm going to answer the top 10 questions that I get asked about the Billy Sheehan wife bass replica. I should have done this video a long time ago, but here we go. Number 1, what inspired you to build the bass? Back in the 80s, I saw a magazine. Some dude was playing this bass. I did not know who Billy Sheehan was. I wasn't even playing at the time. I just saw this thing and I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. The decals reminded me of like a World War II fighter jet. The wings, the battle damage, the whole thing. Back then it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and today it's still the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have an obsession with it. I'm not afraid to admit it, and everyone knows it. Number 2, did you build it yourself? Yes and no. So back in 2010, I believe it was, I contacted several builders to see if they would be interested in doing this. None of them really were. They just wanted to build me a bass and collect my money. And then I met John Scott at Bluesman Vintage. Met him in Nashville. Told him my idea. He was pretty excited about the project, and it went from there. So John built the actual bass. He carved the neck, carved the body, put them together, did the nitro. He did some of the aging. He cut a pickguard, which is no longer the same pickguard. He did a lot of things to try to make it look as close as possible. Sorry to say, the majority of the things he did cosmetically, I went back and changed and altered because I wanted it to be as close as possible. But he built a magnificent instrument. I had this thing a decade. The neck has never needed to be adjusted. I don't know what he did. I have no clue. Whatever kind of magic he works. When you tune it up, it stays in tune. I've never owned an instrument that performed like this one. It's an absolute work of art in every way. Number 3, where did you find the decals? The 2 decals on the front of the bass I bought from skateboard collectors on the West Coast. This decal, I told the guy that my son, who wasn't born yet, was a collector and he was looking for them for his collection. So he agreed to sell it to me at a ridiculously high price. Same thing with this one. The ones on the back, I had to replicate the Dragon decal on a computer because I could not find this exact decal at the time. Now you can find them on eBay, but they are much smaller. They're not this big, and they do not have the clear lettering, which is what I really needed to show the wood grain behind it. This decal has a fun story behind it as well. So let's talk about the decals. The SAD decal. I had everyone looking for it. Finally tracked it down in the UK. As far as I know, and as far as the guy who sold it to me knows, this is the only decal like this in existence that has never been used. So I did not have the heart to use it on here. So I sent it to John. He scanned it, just like with this that I made, put them on the bass. The ones on the front, I managed to find another set over the years, and I bought them just in case I ever built another one. So the one on the front, this one, started out like that. And you can see all the gold. I had to go in with a magnifying glass, some acetone and an X-Acto knife, and flake out every one of those pieces of gold flake to reveal the white background. And then I did all the aging and all the stuff in the letterings. We'll talk about that buckle in a second. This one started out like that. Same thing. I had to go in with acetone, Q-tip, X-Acto knife, remove tiny, tiny, tiny layers until it finally looked like that. Number 4, do you still play the bass live? When I received it in 2012, I began to play it immediately. I could not wait. I played it for every show for about 2.5 years. And then I started to notice some things happening because I was playing on the top deck of a cruise boat up and down the river. The sun was just hammering the bass all day. This decal started to buckle. The adhesive came loose, a buckle formed, and at that point I was like, I am done. So it became a case bass. I still play it maybe once or twice a year just because it's so much fun to play live. I do play it at the house quite a bit, but it does not go out anymore. Number 5, what pickups are in the bass? These are the same type pickups that are in the real wife bass. This is a 1966 Gibson EBO, and this is a late 70s Schecter Monster Tone. I'm not sure what year Billy's EBO is. The one that was in here originally that I got from John, it stopped working. So I found this one, put it in there. These pickups have been many things since they started. They've been DiMarzio's. I had a set of Schallers in here for a while. And when I finally located these, they went in. Most of you guys know about the epoxy. That was fun, and it's still something I do today. Number 6, how did you age the body? Well, as soon as I got it from John in 2012, I immediately began changing things. He did a good job with the aging that he did, but I wanted it to be as close as possible. So sadly, I'd say probably 95, 96% of the stuff that he did is no longer here. I went back over it and redid things myself. It started from this magazine, which was the biggest picture I had at the time of the instrument to show the wear. And I went from there. So I would take the bass into my attic, true story, I promise. Screwdrivers, X-Acto knives, steel wool, sandpaper, anything I could think of. I started replicating all the damage, all the little chips of the nitro, everything, gouging the wood. And immediately, as I'm sweating, I'm rubbing sweat into the instrument. Like I stated before, I was on the top deck of a dinner cruise boat up and down the river. So sun's beating on me, I'm sweating, I'm rubbing it into everywhere. So all of the coloration that you see, that is all disgusting, fermented John Willis sweat. It's gross as it can be. But I wanted it to be as close as possible. Didn't want to use a gray stain like most builders to replicate it. I wanted it to be legit. So all the scratches and dips and chunks removed, everything, the fingerboard, that is all sweat over the years. Big chunk of wood taken out there, all the aging, replicating the spray paint, all the aging. Nice chunk of wood taken out there. This was really fun to do. I mean, not really. To try to get all that wear from his belt buckles, all of this, everything. So yes, it was fun. A lot of hours, a lot of sweat, and I don't regret any of it. Number 7, did you really cut a vintage pickguard? Yes. Of course I did. So I bought the pickguard from a seller. He claimed it was I think he said it was a 68. Not really sure, I can't remember now. So I got it. It was in pristine condition. And then I did this. Chopped it up, cut it out, did the knob layout. And I replicated every little scratch that he had on his. All the icky grime that built up on the pickguard, I replicated that. I cut the pickguard, spliced it in with a black one, did all the washers. I matched the size of the washers. I tried to replicate the wear on the washers, the color of the screws. And I even, if you can see, replicated where the epoxy dripped when Billy was putting it on. All the saw marks, everything. The nerve-wracking part was taking a Dremel to replicate the 30 years of his thumb wearing into these areas. So yes, I am just stupid enough to cut up a vintage pickguard. Number 8, has anyone ever recognized the bass while you were playing it? Yes, over the years, other than you guys, there were 2 people that I can recall who seemed to know what it was. I was playing a set in a bar, guy walks up, comes right up to me, points at the bass with this look on his face. We took a break and he goes, "Is that what I think it is?" And I was like, "It's exactly what you think it is." He's like, "How did you get Billy's bass?" And I said, "Well, I won the lottery and I paid him $1 million for it." Obviously I was joking, and I told him I was joking. But needless to say, it was a nice conversation. He knew exactly what it was. He said he was from Buffalo, seen the bass 1,000,000 times, and he loved it. I let him play it, got up there, sat on the stage, played it, and watching his expression was definitely worth it. The other guy, basically the same thing, but it was on the boat. Couldn't really spend much time with him, but he sat down next to me and stared at it for a little bit. Pretty cool. But yeah, those 2 people are the only ones who've really ever seemed to know exactly what it was. Number 9. How many hours did it take you to do all the aging and wear on the bass? I do not know, and I do not want to know. If I did, I'd probably cry. It's hundreds of hours, without a doubt. Sitting in the attic, weeks upon months, replicating all the wear. And then all the stuff on the back. Everything. I mean, there's so much detail that's impossible to see in pictures and videos. But it's hundreds of hours, easily, without a doubt. Spent too many hours, and I regret none of them. Everything I did to this bass, I absolutely enjoyed doing. And the end product, it makes me smile every time I play it. And that's the goal for me. And number 10, probably the question I get asked the most. How much money did this thing cost you to make? I don't care. I have no idea. I don't even want to try to figure out how much money it was. In between the various pickups, the stickers, how much, John's craftsmanship, how many hours did I spend? What's the labor rate per hour? It's like, I have no clue. It doesn't matter at all. This bass, the sole purpose was to put this instrument in my hand every day. It makes me want to play. I enjoy playing. If there's ever a time when I don't feel like playing or I'm not inspired for whatever reason, guaranteed I can pull this thing out of the gig bag and immediately I'm playing and I'm having a great time. I don't know why. There's something about this instrument that makes me want to play. It makes me super happy. And it's this particular bass. Like I said in the beginning, it was an obsession, it still is, and I'm proud of it. All right, so that's the top 10 questions I've been asked about this bass. There are many other questions, I'm sure, but that should cover most of it. If you stuck around this long, bless your heart. I hope you enjoyed it. See you on Facebook.